the shower wall so there's no gaps. Because if you're taking a shower, you don't want the water to be spilling everywhere.
Okay.
I don't seem to be able to.
Mason Stevens present.
Gary Waddle is present as well. Based on
we have quorum.
we do have,
Hey guys.
hey, how are you?
Good.
That maybe he would like Gary.
So particularly, I guess Gary's the only one on here I haven't met, but I've been muted. Okay, I'm unmuted. Gary's the only one on here I haven't met, but thank you all for being here. And it seems like we do have quorum, so we can.
And preferably the one with the skirt,
meeting,
because then you don't have the
Couldn't we just use the
Gary, I don't know if that's you, but it seems like you have some audio in the background too. So
Yeah, I have two meetings going on at the same time. So
I gotcha. Okay. That makes way more sense then. Well, thanks
Yeah,
for being
so-
here either way. That's
so I'm still at work. So
no, all good. So the first order of business is for us to approve the meeting minutes from last time, which Shailene would have sent around with the last email. If there's any questions or comments about that, we feel free to raise them. Otherwise, if someone wants to motion to approve the meeting minutes from last time, they're welcome to as well.
I move to approve.
Second.
A second.
Second, and all those in favor?
aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
We've got ayes from
Aye.
from all. So the meeting minutes from last time are approved.
Are you able to pull up the PowerPoint now?
Did you send it to me? Yes. All right. So I'm opening up a PowerPoint from Shailene since we're on my computer here. Let me pop it open. So the next item of business is some staff updates from Shane. Yeah, because if I make it full, you mean, yep. You've done this one more time.
Can they see it?
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right, if you cannot see a PowerPoint slide, please let me know. That right now is showing the agenda minutes, but otherwise, Shailene's going to share some staff updates. Oh, yeah.
All right. So first, I want to let you know that the harassment training, if you were not able to attend, there will be emails going out eventually. They are doing all their in-person trainings, and then they will come back and have a way to follow up by watching the recorded video. And then either they will have you sign something saying you watched it, or there will be some short questions to make sure that you are approved. So that will be coming out, and that is required. Also, a second note to that is the city, I sent this out as well over the last month, is that the city did approve a new attendance policy. So that means if you miss more than 2 meetings, you can be removed from the committee. I also want to follow up on the question of Google Docs. And the concern with Google Docs, I know it's kind of far out there, is the idea is what if everyone got on the Google Doc at the same time, or at least 6 of you did? And if that's the case, then you have quorum online and it's technically a public meeting, and we violated public meeting law according to legal. So therefore, you could have a Google Doc that is shared on, say, an ad hoc committee. So you could have committees that are, say, no more than 5 people, so you don't meet quorum. And then you could have a Google Doc shared among that, where you bring the results of it to full committee. So that is how a Google Doc could work. And it's kind of how overall that we might recommend doing some of these pieces going forward, that things that you're going to work on, you work on it in committees that don't meet quorum. The other question that came up at the last meeting was the idea of doing this climate fresque. So again, this would have to follow public meeting laws. So we could have it off-site. That said, legal asks that we carefully consider where we want to have it and do we really need it at something like a brewery, or could it be held somewhere possibly less controversial? And
Very fast.
that we would need to be able to post it just like we post our regular committee meetings. So that would probably mean a month out so that it can get on the general calendar. And that way, if any of the public wanted to attend, they could. All right. So legally, those are the follow-up questions. And
Sorry,
I'm
no
really
one,
lost.
no one's able to see the screen, so
Okay.
I'm trying a different approach. And just
Is Larry online? Because
he's one that said he couldn't see it. So
Larry, you had access to it. Are you able to share the PowerPoint?
can people see us? If I don't project, can people see us now?
I see it now.
Okay.
Let's do it like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you good with that one? Yeah.
So that is all the general legal. Is there any questions about any of the legal follow-up pieces? Okay, seeing none, I will keep going with staff updates just to tell you where things are. In the past month, I've presented to the Sierra Club / Wild Ones. That went over very well. The Community Appearance Committee, where they were very interested in the Natural Landscape Ordinance. The Biped Committee, which would like to interact more with this committee. And most interestingly enough, at least to me, was that I went to Cherokee and presented to the North Carolina City and County Manager Association, where we talked about why cities and counties should have sustainability departments and what they can and should be looking for. So that was a really good opportunity. June was also Pollinator Awareness Month. We had some events for that, including a creek walk. And I also thought you would be interested to know that I've been invited to be a part of the next version of the natural hazard planning that is a regional level, so multiple counties on our next, essentially disaster planning. In terms of natural landscape, the 2nd Street Park has been planted. You probably haven't heard much about it yet because there are a few things where it didn't quite fit our natural landscape ordinance, and Bashavia Gardens is going to make a few updates before we put that out into some publicity. We are currently working on applying for the CFI grant. The CFI grant is the grant for public EV charging. I have been working with Greensboro and High Point, trying to see if we can get a regional grant going for that. So working really hard, and I'll let you know how that goes. Now, my next point actually just changed as of around lunchtime today, in that Central Pines Clean Technology group has agreed to take on our vehicle. The heavy duty clean vehicle IRA grant required a minimum of 3 vehicles. We were not able to have 3 that qualify based on mileage and idling time. We have Central Pines, which is from the Triangle area, is willing to take us on. So hopefully we will be applying for that grant as well, for a refuse truck that will be used for special collections, basically downtown. It's a much smaller garbage truck that we would hope to turn EV. We also just finally got through our executed contract for community project funds. These are congressional appropriations that were from 22. Finally got approved through HUD. Sorry, I've been running a lot of numbers today. I think it's $160,000 to do LEDs on the 4th and Church garage. So we have put in an activity plan and be able to start making those change outs in August. For EV charging, we have them now at fleet and vegetation management, and we are still working on our city hall parking lot that will hopefully be done by September. Last update on that is immediately following this, our last in-person City Hall residents meeting is happening on the second floor of City Hall. But if you weren't able to show up and attend that, we will have it online next Monday, but you have to pre-register on our website to get the link. And again, please, if you haven't taken our survey, please take it and get one other person to do it. We are up to 230 surveys now, so we're doing all right, but the more the better. Any questions on general updates?
On the chargers, I think you had said this in a meeting in the past. Those are just for city use in the
These
short.
are fleet only. If we get the CFI grant, that would be public charging.
Gotcha.
So for the CFI grant, we are looking at community centers, fairgrounds, Bowman Gray Stadium, convention center.
And the timeline on the grant and/or then the installation's like a year.
It's a 5-year, over 5
Gotcha.
years.
Gotcha.
So, and they would be a combination of level 2 and level 3, but mainly level 2
Sure.
chargers.
That makes sense. Just gonna go back here to make sure. Are there any questions about and anything that's been shared so far? Everyone seems quiet.
All right. So the next is kind of my side of what's going to lead you into Carter's discussion. But some of the things that have been asked of possibilities from both city management, our department, as for possible help from this group is back in 2008 when we first had a sustainability. Would you mind closing the door? We first had a sustainability plan. It called for green awards. Now I know that PEA, the Piedmont Environmental Alliance, does some green awards, and we don't want to overlap them, but we think there's still possibilities of where that could be expanded. So to me, this is kind of trying to hit this low-hanging fruit of what was done back in 2008 as one of our goals. And I think where we would need help is looking at what are the categories we should be giving these green awards out for, possibly in the future, you know, voting on who should win them, and also determining what people would like when to give them out. So in terms of green awards, that's one place I think this committee could help. Another thing is that we are getting in these EVs, and we also had another backed up grant that was from 23. It was called a CFAT grant. It was a Clean Fleet Technologies Center from NC State to do conversions for some of our vehicles that won't be electric into propane. And according to the grant, we have to mark these in some way as well. So the little EV sticker you see on there is what marketing has developed. It is obviously quite small and not a huge marking. Some of these EV vehicles, we'd like to do a wrap, which I'll show you some examples of in a moment. And so thinking large scale. And the Assistant City Manager, Ben Rao, suggested that this committee might think about what those wraps should look like. Because, for example, the Tesla was in the Pride Parade with Councilmember Mundy riding in it. So something to be a little bit more seen. My key is that when I do ask when we start to talk about that we don't say a zero emissions vehicle, because when it plugs in, we don't know where that electricity is coming from. But we might also want to do something else. And then last, I'll talk about recycling regatta. So I wanted to give you a couple things. So for example, City of Charlotte does this. So this is like a partial wrap. And they, instead of even saying electric vehicle, this kind of thing could work for both, you know, alternative fuel vehicles and electric vehicles. They have something with a label, Road to a Cleaner Future. You kind of see a road around the leaf. And this was designed via a contest they held. So they're quite proud of this. And you can see where other cities, one of these is from Orlando, I believe, Orange County, where they actually talk about, hey, this is an electric vehicle. That's a full wrap on that vehicle. And you could see where one's propane. I'll also mention that we have agreed to try out biopropane. So all of our propane, we do have some propane vehicles already. We are going to be going for the cleaner burning, the cleaner renewable biopropane. This is what, if we had used the original marketing design, what a larger wrap might look like. And
just to clarify for everyone, and the city or somebody does not want zero emission, because the idea is that whatever we might produce would be on vehicles that aren't zero emission.
What's because when you plug into the grid, Duke is not
Only about half.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here are some other ideas. And so this is again where you might want to have, if you're going to pick this up for us, have an ad hoc committee to kind of essentially draw this out. We could take it back to marketing then to, you know, fill it out once you have a concept. So before I move to recycling regatta, do I have any questions here? I'll let you actually talk about specifics, but what I'm speaking about with EV charging and wraps.
Since
I sort of like the idea of a contest, like just at first, I don't know, just at first glance, just because, you know, I think we're a pretty artistic city with a lot of, you know, like talented artists, and it could be a nice way to like get people involved. But I also am saying that without having thought through much of the details about like what that would mean internally and on the back end. So it may not be the best way to go, but it sounds appealing, I guess. It would certainly be, you know, like one thing to review options for artwork than to, you know, generate it from here.
I'm with Leah. You know, I don't want another something on my plate, but you know, saying there's a contest and having them sent, okay, forgive me, all right, but having them sent to your office, okay, just, you don't have to open them. And then a committee would look at them and decide. I don't know. I mean,
I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jose.
I think it's a great idea, because not only does it create community engagement, especially like if we share it with our network, you know, whether we share it through PEA or any of the other environmental organizations that we're affiliated with, you know, it creates that community engagement piece. I feel like that can, like, you know, it can lead to opportunities, whether it's growing our committee, whether other things, getting our name out there and making more people aware of what we do. I think kind of like how you were saying, how, you know, we can kind of get submissions, and then maybe one of the future committee meetings one of the pieces of business could be, you know, selecting the logo that we feel is most appropriate. Now, I don't know if we have an incentive, but that could be a possibility of discussion as well. But I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea in terms of like marketing and getting, you know, the community more familiarized with what we do.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that's said there. My hesitation with us designing it, or no, assuming anyone even sort of has the expertise to do that, or desire or time for that matter, is perhaps that it might take longer to do like the community engagement, but the added advantage that comes with like giving a little bit of advertisement, like we're saying, like a little bit of knowledge of that the city is working to make progress in sustainability generally, I think would be an added benefit. I think my question maybe for Shailene would be, what does that involve from us? And I imagine it might be involve putting together the call, like an RFP type thing, a call for an advertisement that then gets sent out broadly with a deadline, and then that deadline, the meeting we have after that deadline is we vote on it. Is that the extent of it, right?
In that case, probably.
Yeah.
You would probably want to have some guidelines on what you're expecting to have in it or not expecting to have in it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, that might be a little tricky from a like just from in terms of like raising a profile. I don't know if the first thing we want to put out there is like, help us design wraps. Don't say zero emissions. Don't say electric. Don't say like I don't know. It might, and also the other problem, of course, is if we don't get a good response, and then we're putting in an effort to try to get response, and we're not getting response, and then we have to go. So I don't know. If it's a design question, like are you saying marketing can design something if we figure out what we want it
what
to
like it to look like? Yeah.
Okay.
Meaning we wouldn't have to be like in
Like the
whatever
actual
design
drawing.
software.
Right. But if you say we want to have this.
I mean, perhaps one aspect that we could particularly help with would be like, what is the slogan? Like, I mean, there's not design.
Yeah.
It's what is the message?
Yeah, because like Greensboro has keeping the green in Greensboro,
Keeping the cigarettes in Winston. Sorry, that was a joke for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, maybe we can like think about that. That's fun. I mean, yeah.
I wonder if we didn't do a contest, like how many people feel like they might have somebody they could ask who, or they themselves have ideas about the design half of it versus say like the slogan half of it. Another way to ask. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jose.
I mean, because if you guys loved it, you could always say, hey, we like the marketing design.
I don't like them.
But that's the thing is, you decide what is it that's important and needs to be on there, that it could shape how it changes,
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jose. What were you gonna say?
I'm just thinking about a few ideas because I mean I'm not gonna say I'm a professional, but for like whether my job or any of the other things that I'm engaged with, I do make flyers. So and other graphic designs. I would say possibly incorporating the Winston-Salem skyline, something that's familiar to people. I would also, Winston-Salem is referred to as the Twin City. So I don't know if that's something that we want to take advantage of as far as like our moniker or like what we're known as within Winston-Salem. Trying to think if anything else comes to mind.
I believe we're the only Winston-Salem in the United States.
That's probably true. A hyphen or the dash, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the dash, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you guys continue thinking about the rest of your items because I want to make sure that you can talk about all the different options for what your committee could do. I want to say one other, and is a recycling regatta. So we have Parks on board with the idea to do this. It will be in either May or July of next year. Andy Zabet, our new Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful coordinator, she is going to be heading this up. And the idea is to do a small boat race. Right now, we're thinking either like Winston Lake or even Quarry Lake. And that you'd build something completely out of recycled. And there's lots of options. I'm just kind of showed here some that happen. And then also possibly having a secondary one for like small kids where they make small like water bottle type ones and they race it down a rain gutter. So it could be kind of double, like a big one in the lake and a small thing. The idea is that we have a big recycling issue. We're trying to raise awareness about recycling contamination. There is not another event like this, as far as we know, in North Carolina, and very few overall in the States. So it could be a really key event for us. So having some help moving this forward could also be helpful for a group. So, and that is all I have for y'all.
What kind of ways could we help with, like we might coordinate with Andy, you said?
You could help coordinate with Andy. It could be, I think there could be multiple ways. I mean, it could be anything from planning to sponsors to, you know, bringing other groups into it, to bringing the education and awareness. There's so many pieces because we would like this to be a star event for next year.
So it's happening.
It's happening.
Definitely happening.
Yeah.
And what to what extent do we want to be involved?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any thoughts about the recycling regatta? I know it's pausing my screen when I turn to look at you all, but.
So, well, I think you can stop sharing. I think you can just.
You know what I'm realizing? I'm wondering, does it matter that I'm even connected there?
No, except for that I can see it probably, but no.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
So for this event's a little bit longer term, but for the potential green award, or sorry, for the city wrap, we just highlighted the green awards. We didn't really talk about them a whole lot. And for this potential recycling regatta, I think one thing that I've been thinking about is trying to organize a little bit around not just what our committee does by like meeting in these monthly meetings. And I know we have several new people, and I think hopefully we'll continue to get some new people as we fill out more entirely in the coming months, but that we actually start to allow people to sort of take charge or be point person on certain aspects or groups of people. And so in that vein, that's why I put together the other document that was sent around with the agenda and everything. I've been on this committee for 1.5 years, albeit we were on hiatus for about 6 months. Been now chair for like 3 months, and was appreciating that as we have a lot of turnover and have had new people, that it might be valuable for us to start to be strategic about, or organize at least about what we might want to do. Like, I mean, for those of you that were at the last meeting, we had this debate about the A&T project, for example. In this meeting, it makes me appreciate that, like, we want to really chase what passions are for individual people and based on time and or opportunities that people have. And so I think what I wanted to do with the rest of the time is like try to create a little bit of additional conversation, whether it's about questions that we may have about any of the things that Shailene presented, whether it's the Green Awards, Recycling Regatta, or this vehicle wrap, and or anything else that I put into that other document that I put together for myself and for you all, about what kind of things do we want to see actually happen, right? Like, and are one of you particularly interested in sort of leading the charge, or at least sort of leading the organization around certain projects in and of themselves? And so I think from here, I'd love to just open the floor to hear if anyone has thoughts about topics or ideas that have been presented here or otherwise that they have comments about or are interested in, and maybe we can start to organize ourselves a little bit as we do that.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Carter. Thanks for, yeah, it's nice to have a little time to talk about it. For sure. I I mean, I think you have a good list here, and I mean, I'm like personally basically willing to help wherever we need help. I'm not, I mean, I'm not that compelled by the recycling and waste stuff. Air quality and urban heat is compelling to me, and I do have like experience and a lot of passion around vegetation and planting. And then I mean, I'm interested in all the things, probably except except recycling and waste, and most interested in vegetation. So that is my response just for me, but also I'm happy to hear what other people think and how they want to help.
Thanks, Leah. So especially since you mentioned sort of a heat and or air quality, I do want to bring back up, I know we said we would do this after the last meeting where I was in the car and trying my best to be in this meeting, but the A&T project, that again, those of you who have been on past meetings know about, I think has a lot of opportunity to build bridges, to sort of build relationships with at least a handful of people in the local community, as well as A&T in and of itself. And I just share, and Jose, feel free to chime in, that Chrissy and I had a chat with Jose after that meeting. And I do think that, at least from Christy's perspective and Jose's perspective, that maybe we're a little harsh on their lack of organization, but that like even just trying to be organizers of like this focus group that they're wanting to set up, if we could help set that up to sort of learn about communities impacted by poor air quality or urban heat, we would learn information from that, even separate from whatever it provides to this project that's running through A&T. And so I know Jose and Christy were both interested in trying to push that forward a little bit. And Jose, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have more thoughts on that, and if Leah, if you were interested in that, maybe that is one project that, despite sort of the going back and forth over the last couple of months, we built out our committee, that maybe we try to actually prioritize this community event around sort of understanding impacts of those things.
I think all of, at least I had a difficulty contacting groups, and I maybe Jose will say, you know, have you looked at this and this, or these 3 people, or I don't know. I just I don't know who to contact, because I tried 3 people in government, nothing. So, but I'll try it again.
So if I may ask, and this is just for a little bit more context from my understanding, the focus group, are they asking for a focus group of community members, or are they asking for a focus group of experts or people within the field?
They're asking for the first of community members, of people who might be feeling the impacts, not people who know about the expertise on the impacts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Trying to think about Winston-Salem.
And I'll say they may have moved on. It's possible after the last meeting they may have already moved on.
That's fair.
And I mean, it would basically be a matter of hosting an event, right? Like hosting like a panel discussion where A&T is gonna like survey people, or is it all online?
The idea would be we would get 5 to a dozen people, in a room that they can come facilitate sort of a Q&A session, is probably a focus group where they ask questions and sort of record their responses. And so we would need to set up the venue and get the people there for the most part.
Well,
venue set, we could use City Hall, or any
ideally we would want these to be people who are most affected by urban heat and air quality issues. Like, we're not talking about like, right?
I think so, as long as you're
so I don't want to jump the gun here, but I think that at least, with the way that I'm thinking about it, how we can approach it, and there can be corrections and or thing, or if y'all have hesitations, feel free to, state those. But I think do we know off the top of our heads if there have been any studies or any I guess where we can get information on where like the centralized heat islands and or like, places with air quality issues within the city of Winston-Salem are, and then we can see if we have any contacts that do any outreach in those areas. At least that's how I'm seeing where we can at least attempt to do some outreach to the like people that could be considered for the focus group.
As far as I know, there's not like a Winston-Salem focus study.
No, they're
But
just saying,
it'd be implied. Yeah, let me back up a half step. Shailene wanted to respond that it doesn't have to be the people most impacted. I think Christy and I early on had said in our personal experience that it shouldn't just be this committee, right? Like we're sort of a very biased sample of people. And so it'd be nice to get actual people in communities. If I were to answer your question more precisely though, Jose, I mean, I think we're talking about a handful of people in Northeast or East for the most part. I mean, we're talking, I say Northeast because
But
a lot of industry up there, but
I think when they came,
Right.
they thought they could just talk to you as part of it. So I'm not sure they're gonna be that picky.
yeah, I agree with Shailene's point that just for them, I don't think they're going to be picky at all. If we wanted to say our committee is the focus group and we're all going to get in a room together. But again, I would reinforce that, like, even if we knew a handful of people that we could get there otherwise, it would probably improve it. But yeah.
Right.
Do we know anything about their like how much time they need with them and what they're gonna ask them? Like what the like what is our ask to people? But like what are we telling them is gonna happen apart from like a survey about urban heat, I guess?
Yeah, so they said that they could potentially provide some money towards like a meal or like some food and refreshments as well.
And it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. Like an hour and a half, I think probably is realistic. Yeah. So so we're asking a lot of good questions about what this event would actually look like. I think the key thing that I would love to get out of this is if somebody feels that this is important enough to take on, that like I feel that I don't quite have the bandwidth to do it specifically as the chair of the committee, but that if one or a handful of people could sort of, I'm going to say form a subcommittee, but that's probably too technical language for the rules of the committee, could sort of start to organize themselves around and sort of take charge of being the point person to talk. And I know Christy would be welcome to be a part of that as well from my latest conversation with her. So maybe, I mean, I don't want to like volunteer anyone or anything, but I think mainly the key would be that somebody sort of becomes the liaison between the A&T crew, between Shailene and the city, and sort of help just organize and do a little bit of the outreach too. So if anyone's interested in that, I think that this could be a good project, and at least a learning experience for all of us as well.
I'm waiting for Joe to say something or for Jose to say something.
I know no one wants to like take charge. Completely understand.
I mean, I don't think it's an issue of taking charge. I'm just trying to, I guess, weigh my capacity at the moment, just for work and and everything that I have going on. What I can do is that I guess I'll start kind of like some, I guess, preliminary research just to kind of see if I have any context within this area. Just because I don't want to say, oh, I can get the contacts here and not have those connections. So I'll kind of start looking to see if there are people that I can ask, and I'll compile a list, and I'll see if like those contacts are interested in something like that.
Okay, Jose, I would suggest just keep me in the loop because I'm not sure how fast the A&T group moves on to contacting churches or
Right.
whatever they said they were gonna do.
Mm-hmm. Will do.
So why don't we pivot from there? So yeah, maybe we can hear back from Jose next meeting about, or in the meantime, maybe actually even more practically if you have updates. So Leah, you mentioned like also interested in like moving forward projects in the sort of vegetation native planting space. Were there particular projects in the sub bullets? Let me just back up. Nothing I wrote in this was exhaustive. Like I said, it was organizing just for me as much as anyone else. And these were ideas that have come out of conversations, mostly with Shailene, but with a few other community members as well. Leah, were there things on there that particularly stuck out as you as things that this committee might do? Or other ideas that you have? Or I'd love to hear more about what you're thinking.
I mean, I think the stormwater management people at the city seem to have a really good already like grasp on like the species. I don't know how much stormwater management intersects with whoever is in charge of actually doing planting, like things like the Marshall Park you referenced here. That's the one at Callidium, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think that I'm, like in source than people who are maybe already there, but if I can help like connect people or if if we can figure out who's making decisions about the like when there's an opportunity, like when someone is going to be putting together a plant list for a project, it would be great to know about that and lobby for certain, like plant this instead of that. You yeah. And then I mean, in terms of reducing invasive species, that's like that is an all the time sort of a thing. And I think I would be happy to, if the city wants to host like I don't know, I know there's at least, I know that some people just go out and like pull, like cut down kudzu vines and things like that, just because they enjoy doing it. And if the city wants to host some sort of a concerted effort around something like that, I'd be very happy to like be involved and help organize that.
So Andy with Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful is planning to create some type of monthly group that would do different types of beautification projects, including working on invasives.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So we could both potentially as individuals participate in that, but just as importantly help get the word out about that group so that there's more people and to organize or to participate in those efforts.
With the stormwater runoff prevention people, do they already have like a list of places that they intend to like add rainwater gardens and that sort of thing, or is that on their to-do list?
I would have to ask specifically. I mean, they work a lot with, invasive and native species. It's key on them, but I don't know exactly how that works. But the county extension office also gets funding for those kinds of things. So, for example, I know we're trying to look at doing something at Salem Lake, and along where they're having some erosion areas. And then county extension might be paying for that through a rainwater garden as well.
So
do you guys have a contact? And maybe I'll do that and reach out to stormwater prevention people.
I can send up a follow-up. and again, Andy, and Keep Winston-Salem Beautiful, she came over from Stormwater, so she'd probably be the best contact to determine that.
So going back to Leah's question, which is kind of related to Mason's question about to what extent when a new planting, whether it's stormwater or just in like
It's usually vegetation management.
and to what extent is there oversight over planting lists, as Leah's mentioning?
Vegetation management makes most of the decisions.
And to what extent do you perceive that they are making non-invasive and locally focused decisions?
We ask them every time we see them.
Gotcha. So not ever around a project, but every time you're in the same room
I do
with
not
them.
think in general they are planting invasives.
Yeah.
Um,
It's mostly just historical, like you mentioned before, crepe myrtles sitting in
crepe
parks or
myrtles are
whatever.
not technically invasive.
Right.
But they
so-
aren't great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe invasive is not the right word, but yeah.
Yeah.
Non-native.
Yeah. Because they definitely want to manage a lot of the invasives as well. They don't want to promote ivy or kudzu
Sure.
or any of these things as well. But you know, we ask them and we ask them again. I am not sure I can advise you on.
A contact or a strategy.
Well, I mean, there's a contact,
Sure.
but I'm not sure what the strategy would be.
Like an ordinance for planting would be ambitious, perhaps.
Well, so that is again what Greensboro has done, right? Greensboro passed an ordinance that all plantings at city facilities are going to be native.
Yeah, that's awesome. That would be great.
And so, I mean, if we could achieve that, I think that would be big too. But the question is like how we get there, obviously.
Well, so again, that's part of, you can make recommendations to council to, pass resolutions such as that.
Yeah, that's a good
and
idea.
You could go to committee, you could go to council and take that.
So I'm interested in this as well. So it sounds like Leah, you have some interest in this also. So I might follow up after the meeting with you, and maybe we can brainstorm a little bit about how we might go about doing this. I want to be cognizant of time. So I didn't want to like formally like form committees or like organizing groups today, but I did want to start to like inspire that, for progress to be made from our committee specifically. It's going to just take a little bit of us like dividing and conquering, or at least having different people sort of charging forward on different projects. I think that some of the projects that's already happening, like the recycling regatta, we can continue to think about how we can support, especially since that's sort of long-term planning. Also potentially the green awards as well, I think is something that's sort of interesting from a marketing perspective. But my call would be that between this meeting and next meeting, those of everyone who's on the committee sort of continuing to think about like whether they want to be a part of some of these projects that we've sort of talked about today, or sort of taking leads on other projects as well. But for the last part of the meeting, I had sent Shailene a few like what she's called on here community updates, because I felt like there were several things happening, and I wanted to make this committee aware of, and or like maybe this committee could use to sort of like use their voice and their networks to augment. But also wanted to make this a regular space right at the end of meetings where we could potentially, even if something's not like on an agenda, that anyone could sort of share information that they have. So I have 3 different things that I just wanted to share everyone, and I'll send some information to Shailene afterwards. So an email with like links and things like that will come to you after this meeting. But one, several of you probably have seen this, but there's a Solarize the Triad campaign that's kicking off in the whole Triad, I should say, and surrounding counties. That's formally kicking off on Tuesday, July 23rd. And so what this is sort of a community-based solar campaign where, by having a bunch of residents and small businesses commit to solar individually, the price from the contractor who's going to would do the installations goes down by everyone sort of pulling the commitment to solar. The kickoff event, put on your calendars, is Tuesday, July 23rd from 6:30 to 8 at the Second Harvest Food Bank. And again, actually, just as of today, at least one council, Mayor Pro Tem Adams should be there. The mayor's going to record a video for there. So we're trying to build this into a big event. Again, more details and links and things will come after this meeting. The second thing I wanted to put on your radar was Shailene recently spoke to the Bike and Transportation Committee. I don't actually know the name of the city committee, but I also talked to the chair of it on the same day, except after her. And there's sort of a forward-looking planning for both the state and the region about future-looking transportation-based projects. I think Mason knows a little bit about this as well. That needs input from citizens, basically, where you can sort of go into these maps and say, yes, I support this project. No, I don't support this project. And several of them involve bike-friendly, pedestrian-friendly access. One of them involves a rail line, a train that runs through basically through the center of the state. And comments and or just like checking yes or no on those things is due by July 15th. So that's a fairly quick turnaround, but I will send the links, or through Shailene, I will send the links for those things. And then the last update or like community announcement I had was from Christy. So again, she couldn't be here today, but through the school system, she's sort of trying to kick off for this next school year, is kicking off this, something she's calling, or people are calling, compost in a box. Again, maybe Leah knows about this, I'm not sure. But they will need volunteers once the school year starts. And again, please contact Christy. We'll put her contact information in the email. That detail, I think, is mostly around volunteers to help sort of support this composting in the schools program. But I don't know more details, and Christy can share more if anyone's interested in contacting her. Other than that, I'd love to open it up if anyone else has any announcements or community related information that might be relevant to share with this committee, so that either we can participate individually or share with our networks. Well, if no one has any other announcements,
it's almost done.
If no one has any other announcements, thank you all so much. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move.
Second.
In a second, and I'll and so the meeting, do I need to vote? No, voting for meeting. Yeah. So the meeting's adjourned at 6:02. Thank you all for the delay early on. And I think we made some progress today, and it's great to meet you, Gary, in particular, who I haven't met before, and see you all in a month. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Jose. Thank you. I will look for someone to be part of the focus group. I've got a couple of people, so I can try. Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Great. Let's just all be in touch on that.